Hello, my Algebra 1 students. This is your notes on evaluating functions and function notation. You need to know what function notation is and how do you use it. Function notation is this funny looking thing right here that is another way of saying y equals. This is pronounced f of x. It doesn't mean a variable f is multiplied by a variable x. It means there is a function whose name is f that has a variable x that we're going to do something to. What we are usually doing is substituting into the function. Substitute means replacing. So down here in our example where it says, I would read this, f of x equals 3x plus 2 has the same meaning as if I said y equals 3x plus 2. So evaluate this function right here for the given input values. Another name for input values is domain. And then I am calculating the range. So I am going to substitute in the 7 right here. Where the x was, I am going to put in a 7. 3 times 7 is 21. So f of 7 equals 23. If I graph this, this would be a line, and one of the points on that line would be 723. That's what you're finding when you are substituting in a point. My next point is x equals -4. This is my function rule, it's sometimes called. This particular one is a linear rule. If I substituted in the -4, you substitute the -4 wherever you see an x. That's going to be -12 plus 2. So f of -4 would equal -10 when you combine using your correct integer rules. Here's another function. This one's name happens to be h, and the variable happens to be r. So what happens when r equals 600? This is called the function rule. In place of the r, I'm going to put in the number 600. That's what it means. So h of 600, 1/3 of 600, when you multiply those together, you would get 200, and h of 600 would be 202. Using my same function, 1/3 r plus 2, in place of r, now I'm going to substitute in a -12. So this is going to be the way you multiply fractions, as you multiply the numerator times the whole number. 3 will go into 12 4 times. That's going to have a negative sign. And that is my function rule. What that means is if I graph this linear equation, -12, -2 would be one of the points on that line. Here is my function rule, f of x equals x squared plus 1, and this is the domain. The domain is my x values, my domain is my input values. So what I am going to do with this function is in place of the x, I'm going to substitute the first value here. F of 3 is going to be 9. 3 squared means 3 times 3, and that's going to be 9. So f of 3 is going to be equal to 10. That means if I graph this, this would not be a line this time. It would be a curve, but one of the points on that curve would be the point 3 and 10. You start with the function rule, and now I'm going to input the 6. In place of the x, I put a 6 because that's what it said right there. 6 squared means 6 times 6. And so my last number, I still have the same function rule. My last number is a 9. I'm going to input a 9. 9 squared means 9 times 9. And so what I have found when I input those values is I have found the range. 10 and 37 and 82 will be my range for this domain. This next problem turns it around a little bit. Instead of being told what x is, I'm told what f of x is. F of x says right there is 22. So since I'm told what f of x is, I replace f of x with 22, and now I am solving it for x. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. To cancel out the 2, I'm solving for x, and so I have moved the 2 to the other side. I'm going to divide by the 6 and then reduce. 6 will go into 24 4 times, and so x would be equal to 4. Problem number 4 looks a little tricky. For the function g of 4 equals 8, and g of 8 equals 4, and if y equals g of x, what's the value of y when x equals 8? That looks very confusing. But remember that our function notation is written like this. Do you see that the 4 is written where the x goes in our function notation? So I'm going to convert the information given in this problem to a table. When x is equal to 4, y, or g of x, whichever one you want to call it, is equal to 8. And if the x is equal to 8, the y is equal to 4. Now that we have it in a table format, when x is equal to 8 is right there on my table. When x is equal to 8, what's y equal to? So it's not as difficult as it looked like. Now we're going to practice some more function notation problems. Here's a function rule, and this tells me to put a -4 in place of x. That's what it means when it says f of -4. It means in this function rule, wherever I see an x, I'm going to substitute a -4. So f of negative 4 is going to be negative 8 minus 3. F of negative 4 is going to equal negative 11. When I combine those, I get a negative 11. This function is called k, and this tells me in place of the x, when I have this function, in place of the x, I'm going to put a 4. And I'm going to solve out this side. So this is going to be negative 28 plus 1. That is the answer. Now this one's a little bit more difficult because it has this squared in here. So h of negative 2 squared minus 3 times negative 2 plus 5. In place of this x, I substituted in a negative 2. In place of this x, I substituted in a negative 2. That's what this function notation tells me to do. Now, when you square something, that means negative 2 times negative 2, so that would be a 4. A negative 4 because there's this negative out in front here. Negative 3 times negative 2 plus 5. Combine these negatives for a final answer of negative 5. Will I get the same answer if I plug in a positive 2? In place of the x's, wherever I had an x, I plugged in a 2. This is the negative sign out in front. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 6 is 6, but this time a negative times a positive. Ooh, I got to back up on that other one. I made a sign mistake on the previous problem. Did you see me make a sign mistake on the previous problem? Because these should not have come out to be the same answer. Did you find my sign mistake already? A negative times a negative makes a positive. That's why you should be writing with a pencil. I can't write with a pencil because it won't show up on the screen. And so this making my correction should be, I'm going to add those two together because they are positive. And so negative 4 plus 11 would make an answer of positive 7. Is that better? When I have a table to fill in, that means this is going to be my x value. I am going to take 4x minus 2, this function right here, and I'm going to plug in a minus 2. Let's see if I can do it this time without a sign mistake. Negative 8 minus 2, this would come out to be a negative 10. Now I'm going to take the same function, and this time I'm going to plug in a negative 1. And so that's going to make a negative 4 subtract 2. Negative 4 subtract 2 would make a negative 6. 4x minus 2, I'm getting that from right up here. In place of the x, I'm going to plug in a 0. putting my calculations down here below. 4x minus 2. This time I'm going to plug in a 1. This time I'm going to plug in a 2. On example number 9, I already have the table filled out for me. And so in function notation, this is f of x, so I need to look in the x column and find a number -3 in the x column and what goes with it. For this column, I look in the x column and I find what number matches x of 8. This is the number that matches with it in the table. The next kind of problem is a little bit trickier. I don't have the x. This number that I'm given is the y number. So I need to look in this column. This is the same as our y column. Here's the -6. What goes with it? I am looking for a y value of 4. This has a y value of 4, and that has a y value of 4. There's 2 y values of 4, so there are 2 answers. A y value of 4 matches with an x of 2. A y value of 4 also matches with an x of 8. Let f of x equals 3x minus 2. If f of x equals 10, find x. This problem does not give me an x to plug in. This problem gives me an f of x to plug in. This is equal to the 10. Can you solve this for x? I need to move the 2 and then divide and then reduce. I need to add 2 to both sides of the equation. I need to divide both sides of the equation by 3. I need to reduce 12 divided by 3. Here's another one of those crazy type of problems. If the function h, then I have h of 4 equals 9 and h of 9 equals 4. And so to help me figure that out, I'm going to make a table. And h of x is also known as y. So this would be how our function notation is written. And so the 4 is my x number. If this is my x number, this is my y number. That's what the function notation means. If this is my x number, then this is my y number. What is the value of y when x equals 9? If x equals 9, then y equals 4. So this problem is much, much easier to figure out, I think, if you put it in table form. Please begin your assignment number 10.